Hello, everyone. The holiday of Sukkot finished, and Simchat Torah is over, is all behind us. And now, Baruch Hashem, we're going to start from beginning. We're going to start Sefer Bereshit, the book of Bereshit. And today, and hopefully the Shabbat, we're going to read the Parashat Bereshit. Now, as we all know, the Parashat Bereshit talks about the creation of the world, and in the middle, and then it talks about how how Cain and Hevel, they bring a sacrifice to Hashem. They bring a sacrifice to Hashem, and we know Cain, he brought from vegetables, from vegetation to Hashem, and Hevel, he brought a nice looking animal to Hashem. And Hashem accepted the korban of Hevel and not Cain. And what happened was, Cain gets jealous, he gets angry, and then he confronts his brother and he kills him. He kills Hevel, his brother. Now, afterwards, after Cain kills his brother Hevel, Hashem comes to Cain and he tells him, Vayomer me asita, what did you do? Hashem tells him, Kol dme achicha tzoakim elai min ha'adama. The voice, he says, the voice of your brother's bloods cry out to me from the ground. Now, the interesting is, it doesn't say dam, the blood, it says demei. The Torah uses a plural language. It says demei, which means bloods. It's like many bloods. It's crying out to me from the ground. Now Rashi explains that Hashem used plural form. Why? And not the word dam. Because Cain, he wasn't responsible he wasn't only responsible for murdering only one person, but he also, it's like he was responsible murdering the future generation of Hevel, all his children and descendants. Like Chazal tell us in Masechet Sanhedrin, the man was created individual to teach us that when a person saves a single life, it's as though he saved the whole world. And the same thing, when a person kills Chas v'Shalom, one person, it's as though he wiped out the entire world. Now, if we look, from Shet, who was the other brother, Cain, Hevel, and Shet, and we all came, the whole humanity came from Shet. And how many people do you have in the world? Like billions and billions of people, just from one person, Shet. So we see how much, if Hevel would be alive, how much, how many people would there be? So Cain didn't just kill one person, he killed billions and billions, like the whole future generation. Now, the question is, what's the lesson here for us? How is that a lesson for us? So, no one is killing, Baruch Hashem, anyone. So what's the lesson here for us? So the lesson is like this. It says in the Gemara, Brachot, that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, he was on his deathbed, and his students came to visit him. Now, when he saw them, he began to cry. His students asked him, they told him, Ner Israel, Amud Ha'yimini, Patish Chazak, Mipnei ma ata bocheh. They told him, they said, light of Israel, the right hand pillar, the mighty hammer, why are you crying? Our Rebbe, our Rabbi, why are you crying? So he answered them like this. He says, if I would be taken before the king, the earthly king, who's here today and gone tomorrow, whose anger is not permanent, and his imprisonment won't be also, it won't be permanent. and a person can appease him with money, yeah, and still I would cry, and still I would be afraid of him. So he says, but now I am being taken to a King of Kings, to Hashem, the Holy One, the blessed is He, yeah, Hashem. And he's angry, and if He is angry with me, His anger is internal. If He imprisons me, it will be internal. It will be internal imprisonment. If he kills me, it will be internal death. So he says, I cannot appease him with bribe. I cannot bribe him. I cannot. And not only that, he says, I have two paths in front of me. One leads to Gan Eden, the other one leads to Gehenna. And I do not know which path they are taking me. So he says, I should not cry. So the rabbis, so the commentaries ask, they say, it seems like Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was not crying the whole time. He was quiet, yeah? And then suddenly when he sees his students, he starts crying. And also, why did Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai think that they would be taking him to Gehenna? Like, well, he was the Jewish leader. Like, why would this thought, would even come to him? So Rav Eli Lopian, he gives explanation. He says like this. He says that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, he was sitting and he was thinking about his actions. He was thinking, and he felt he would earn the rightful place in Gan Eden. But then suddenly when he saw his students, he thought to himself, did I do right thing? Did I treat my students properly? Did I give enough attention to each one of them? He said, maybe I was harsh with them, or maybe I was too lenient with them. So Rabbi Yochanan, he realized that all these students, when he was teaching them, he wasn't just teaching them, but he was building them. He was really teaching. He was preparing the future generation. This is what he was doing. He realized anything that I did to my students, it didn't just affect them, but it affected their children, affected their grandchildren, and future generation. And this is the realization that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai came to. He said, in the beginning he was thinking, yeah, probably I'll get, he was thinking, he was seeking his actions to see if he is going to get Gan Eden. But then when he saw his students, he started to cry because he didn't know, did he act towards them properly or not? In Torah Badat, there was a Rosh Yeshiva, Reb Shlomo Heinemann, and he gave shiur with a lot of enthusiasm. And one time it was snowing outside, and there was only 3 students came. And Reb Shlomo Heinemann gave shiur, continued giving shiur with a lot of enthusiasm, with a lot of power. So the students told him, there's only 3 people. You could just talk to us quietly. He said, no, Rabbi Shlomo Heinemann said, I'm not only talking to you, I'm talking to your children, I'm talking to your grandchildren, I'm talking to your descendants. I'm talking I'm talking to the future. So what's the lesson to us? The lesson for us is like this. Sometimes we deal with people, we deal with neighbors, with with workers, with co-workers, with so many people. Sometimes when we say something bad to somebody, or let's say we hurt somebody, sometimes it's not only hurting them, but it's hurting their children, it's hurting their generation. It could have an effect for the future. It could have an effect on the future generation. So we should be thinking before we say something, before we do something, am I doing something right or not? Because I could be my action could affect not only him, not only that person, but also could affect his future. It could affect his wife. It could affect his family. It could affect his children. It could affect his future children. So before we do something, a person has to think before he takes the right action. Have a great Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.